Metropolis, but not the 1927 version that came out 90 years ago. This one will cover the 1984 Giorgio Moroder presents Metropolis. Metropolis originated in Germany during the silent film era and was originally 153 minutes long. When Metropolis came to the United States, Paramount cut out much of the footage, reducing it to 92 minutes, and over the years much of that footage was lost. It's taken years to find and restore the original footage of the director's cut of Metropolis. And in 1984, when Moroder released his version, it was the most complete to date at that time. Although they did recently find a print in 2010 in Argentina, which had the 153-minute run, although about 5 minutes of the film were unrecoverable and damaged. So they restored 95% of the film to 148 minutes and was released as Metropolis the Complete Edition. The story of Metropolis is simple, a tale of industrialism versus the working class, where the higher-ups live in beautiful, decadent lifestyle, while the working class toils beneath the Earth's surface in a hellish existence. During the beginning of the film, Frieder, who's played by Gustav Froelich, meets Maria, who's played by Brigitte Helm. Maria is a social worker who eases the discomfort and the sadness of the day-to-day existence of the lower class, telling them the story of the Tower of Babel, which provides an allegory for the situation that they live in. The Tower of Babel, as she puts it, the minds that had conceived the Tower of Babel could not build it, but the hands who did build it knew nothing of the dream of the brain that had conceived it. She proclaimed that the head and hands need a mediator. The mediator between the head and the hands needs a heart in order to exist. And Frieder, who had been taken in by Maria's beauty, traveled down below to the surface world of the workers, experiencing firsthand their nightmarish existence where they were pushed beyond the limits of human endurance. Angry at what he had seen, Frieder went to speak with his father, Joe Friederson, who was played by Alfred Abel, and informed him of the working conditions down there. After becoming suspicious of his son's new interest in the working class, Friederson recruited Rotwang, a scientist and former rival for his wife's Hell's affections. Rotwang was mentally unstable and created a robot that he proclaimed carried the likeness of Hell. Friederson decided to use this robot to his advantage, replace Maria, and sow discontent among the workers down below. Rotwang eventually did capture Maria and used her to create the outer likeness, although by today's standards how evil she actually looks is pretty subjective. Come on now, I've seen what evil faces look like, and that's more of the face of someone who's been dipping a little too much into the sauce. That's not really conveying so much evil to me. Regardless, the robot Maria, who is actually properly known as the Maschinenmensch, creates havoc throughout the city, entrancing the upper class with her provocative, sexualized dances at the Yoshiwaru Club, and finally going down below to incite the workers into acts of violence and rebellion, destroying their machines that protect their home and their very children. The working class goes too far, acting under the guidance of the crazed Maria clone, and do succeed in destroying their home. However, Frieder and the real Maria who had escaped from Rotwang came to the children's aid and saved them before death. The angry mob, now realizing that they've been tricked, burn the Maschinenmensch at the stake, revealing its true robotic identity. After Frieder and Rotwang have a battle at the top of a cathedral, Rotwang falls to his death. Frieder is reunited with Maria and his father, and finally fulfills the prophecy of acting as the heart between the head, which is his father, and the hands, with the foreman known as Grot. The Giorgio Moroder version of Metropolis is a unique piece in Metropolis' long history. This version of Metropolis is set in the year 2026, although various versions either place it in the year 2000 or the year 3000. This version was 83 minutes long, which was the most complete version of Metropolis to date in 1984. It was a very different presentation. It took the classic black and white silent film and modernized it for the MTV generation, taking the black and white film and adding a colorized tint to it. It also sped up the frame rate, added special effects and some limited sound effects, subtitles instead of place cards for the dialogue, and the biggest change of all was a pop soundtrack. Among some of the biggest artists on the film were Pat Benatar, Bonnie Tyler, Adam Ant, Loverboy, and Freddie Mercury with his title song Love Kills. While a lot of film purists balked at this version of Metropolis, it did introduce the silent film to a whole new generation that may not have otherwise been interested in silent film. The Moroder version of Metropolis had long been a staple on VHS, appearing in numerous video stores over the years until it finally fell out of print, primarily due to licensing issues with the music. The music rights were finally restored, and the film was put out yet again in 2011 on Blu-ray. The film has been credited for being extremely influential on modern science fiction. The machine-and-mensch robot has been very influential on several modern-day science fiction characters that you might recognize today, and the city's sprawling set designs have inspired other films such as Blade Runner. I personally am a large fan of the Art Deco style, and this film is absolutely beautiful. Taking into context that this film is nearly a century old, the special effects for the time were phenomenal. And the art design and the sets and the sheer amount of extras and costumes that went into this, it was way over budget, and while it was considered a commercial and critical failure at the time, it has since become one of the defining staples of the science fiction genre today. The Moroder version of Metropolis may not be for everyone. It may not be for film purists who believe that the colorized frames, the special effects, and the pop music have zero place in Metropolis, but it is an interesting footnote. As I mentioned before, these changes help to elevate the film into a new level of pop modernism, and has kept film preservationists looking to complete the film up until 2008, when they found as good as it gets at this stage. Perhaps they'll find another copy of the film still out there with those remaining 5 minutes, because so many of those early films, especially German films, were lost during World War II. I would call Moroder's version perhaps an entry level to Metropolis. If you're unfamiliar with silent films, black and white films, feel that the pacing is too slow or the acting is perhaps a little more melodramatic than what you're accustomed to, this version of the film will give you an idea of the set design, the special effect, and how it's laid the groundwork for so many films today. Moroder's version of Metropolis very much is a product of its time. It feels like a long-running music video, and it does add an interesting new perspective to the film that you wouldn't consider otherwise. Personally, I enjoy the Metropolis soundtrack as Moroder did the music for one of my other favorite 1984 films, Electric Dreams. Considering its long out-of-print status, it's something of a novelty and a collector's item today. But it works, and you should definitely check it out. I personally enjoy the Metropolis soundtrack as Moroder